welcome to Book Crew. We are on KCCC, 9:30 a.m. in Carlsbad, New Mexico, on Mondays at noon. We're also available wide on every major podcast platform out there and on video at YouTube and Rumble. On Book Crew, we help writers get their book edited, published, and promoted. I'm writer and marketing Jedi Dirk Hooper, and I'm joined as always by author and editor Beth A. Freely. How you doing, Beth?
I'm doing good, Dirk. Doing good. We had a productive evening.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You said you were doing some work out there on the ranch.
A little bit, yeah. We oh my gosh. So my other half went out today and was checking all the trees, and we have fruit trees on the property. We have 2 apple trees, and we've got 2 peach trees and an apricot tree, as well as pecans. And he came in, he's like, I need your help. I'm like, what's the matter? He goes, something's attacking the trees. I'm like, what do you mean something's attacking the trees? It's barely spring.
Oh.
Don't know what it is. Like both of our apple trees are full of flowers and have a lot of, buds on them ready to go, but there's something boring into the tree. And we've had this problem with the 2 peach trees and the apricot tree, over the last 2 years. And we've been, we spray them to get the bugs out. But it was concerning on our one apple tree, and we're trying very hard not to lose it. So it was a trip into town to get more of the spray and to get mothballs, because apparently these bugs don't like mothballs. Heard this trick from my father-in-law. So, well, I'm actually sitting here watching Dan put mothballs around our one plum blossom tree that's outside my window here. But we've spent the afternoon spraying down the trees, checking stuff out, looking for, live bugs and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, it's been a great day. I don't want to lose our tree. I like our trees.
We had a tornado close by last night.
Oh,
so that's kind of, I mean, it's spring in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So the tornado was about a block or 2 away from where I live.
Oh my gosh, that's really close.
Which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a basement there, or were you like holed up in the bathroom? Oh.
No, Friday night, the night that I go out and hang out with friends. So we were in the north part of the city instead of the south part of the city, Oklahoma City, where I live. And so, as it turns out, I wasn't anywhere near where it really happened. At about 9:00 last night, I started getting a bunch of texts and, messages from people from various social media asking about, hey, are you okay? What's going on? You got to get back to me as soon as possible. And we started paying. I mean, I was enjoying Mexican food. I didn't know what the heck was going on.
Oh, yeah.
It was raining like crazy, but it wasn't. We weren't having a problem. So anyway, that's kind of what I was dealing. That's what I was dealing with last night, I guess.
Craziness. Yeah, I don't miss being in Tornado Alley. Don't miss.
Yeah,
that
I've always lived around here, so I guess I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Today, what we're going to talk about is something I've been wanting to talk about a long time. But before I get into it, I want to say that I am writing articles on Book Crew, the Book Crew website. And so I've written one article on what I call the vomit draft, and another on several that authors can use to activate the power of your subconscious mind while you're writing stories. So if you're interested in those sort of articles, just head over to our website, which is bookcrewpodcast.com, and you can read the articles. And I'm going to regularly be writing articles on there, specifically on the same subjects that we cover here on Book Crew. And hopefully I can encourage Beth to maybe write a little bit here and there on there as well.
I've got some I can go ahead and put up. So yeah, I will be adding to what Dirk is putting on there. So please, check it out, see what we've got there. You might find some advice that you didn't realize you needed.
That's right. That's right. All right. So today, I'm going to talk about something. I've been threatening to do this for a year now, and we've finally, this is the moment, and it's something that I will, it's something that I will address probably many times in the future, not just now. So we'll see how it goes the first time out. But I am kind of a plotting junkie. Like, I've gotten to the point now where I constantly read books on how to plot books. And I have something here I'm going to show you. I have a notebook that's called plot notes, right? And like more. All of these tabs here that you can see, all of these tabs, all of them are each a different book on how to plot that I have taken notes on and have incorporated into my process, which is ever changing. So, I am definitely in this. And just the other day, not too long ago, one of our writer friends was interested in, doing some plotting on a book. Now, this is someone who, again, I won't name them, but this is someone who's written many books and is interested for whatever reason. We didn't go down that rabbit hole about, how do you plot your books? And, it's different for every person. Each person has their own method, whether it's no plotting. Some people, that's their plot, is no plot. And then some people, are obsessively plotters or whatever. I think that I fall somewhere in between there. But let me ask Beth, before we kind of get rolling on this thing, when we first started talking about writing, you described yourself as a pantser.
I did.
I did. Your pants are like plotting by the seat of your pants. Mm-hmm. So that's where you get pantsers. That's how you described your process. So what changed for you to turn you from a pantser to a plotter? Because now you say you plot.
I plot. What changed me from a pantser to a plotter was I signed up in 2024. I signed up to write numerous stories, somewhere between 25 and 35 to 40K stories in shared worlds. And I made the mistake of kind of overbooking myself. So here I am with 5 books, all due within 6 months. And this is where you started actually, talking about me and my, 10 million books that I'm writing all at one time and, just producing boom, boom, boom. So that's what prompted me to turn around and start plotting out books. I used to be a plotter way back in the day when I first wrote Beyond the Steps of Stone in, 2003, 2004. I had plotted that whole thing out. And so when I signed myself up for all of these, I said, all right, you need to stop and you need to go back to doing this the way you used to do it. So I pulled out all my old notes and looked at how I did Beyond the Steps of Stone. And then I sat down and actually, what's funny is I actually sat down with a notebook and a pen and plotted out the first of the shared world books, which was The Perfect Mix. And I took that and I gave myself good old fashioned high school outlining is how I did it. Good old fashioned high school outlining is what I started. And from there, I took it and blew it out to where instead of having just lines of plot points, I had paragraphs of plot points. And then the next day I took that paragraph and made it 2 or 3 paragraphs on each plot point until I actually basically built myself a scaffold of about a half a page of plot point per line. So each chapter might have had a half a page of plot. And from there, I blew out the chapters when I sat down and wrote it. And doing it that way from start to finish. That's from starting the outline to blowing it out, as a scaffold, to writing the book, to editing the book, and then going through the last process, which for me is listening to, putting the book in Word and having Word read it back to me, looking, because sometimes listening to it via audio helps you catch the words you're missing, helps you catch that plot point.
Sure.
That's always my last process, is to listen to it. And if everything is good, boom, book is done, off I go. That's how I am able to do a book within 2 weeks to a month. Because once I start writing it,
so the process,
I don't stop. Mm-hmm.
So the process is really what unlocked your ability to produce more books.
Yeah.
And keep the kind of the machine rolling.
And keep the pace going. Yeah. Because I can, on a weekend where I am focused, and I'll tell my husband, or if I have family here, I'm like, I'm going in the office. Don't bother me for the next 3 hours. I can write up to 10,000 words in 3 hours. When I'm sitting here writing, I can do about 10,000 words in 3 hours. I know people struggle with that. And, I toss on the headphones and I drown everything out and I get on a roll and I just follow my outline and I just go. And some people can do it. Some people can get hyper-focused like that. Some people can't. I'm one of those people that can hyper-focus. I mean, this is what I did with Love of a Samurai. I outlined it. I scaffolded it all the way out. And then I just sat down and wrote the book. And that book at 788 pages, that took 6 months to write. I mean, that was 217,000 words. But, for a standard novel, it is a monster. It's you see it right here. She's a big one. But for Keeper of Ren Hollow is 35,000 words. From start to finish, it was 3 weeks.
Right.
And the only reason why it was 3 weeks was because I was. This one is the first book of a series, and there was a lot of world building involved. A lot more world building than just throwing my character somewhere in Wyoming and reading up on the city and going right away. But yeah, I mean that's. And then I went when I stopped being a pantser, and I actually sat down and streamlined my process and started outlining. I went from writing a book from it taking a year to a year and a half to write a book from start to finish, to being able to do it in a couple of weeks to a month. And it makes a difference.
I mean, that's a pretty good sales job that you have there. I mean, if people are serious about producing books.
Yeah. It also helps that I am an empty nester. I don't have kids I'm raising anymore, unless you count my husband.
Sure.
So when I get off of work, when I get off of the 9 to 5 job, I'm jumping into my job, which is writing. Or if I'm not writing, I'm working on something for the Muses Funhouse. Usually for some other author, I'm working on a website or something else. But my free time, most of the time, my free time is spent writing, and that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. Now, if someone with kids may not have that luxury, but if they can find and hone their own process, even with kids, and they can carve out time for themselves, they can write a book in 6 to 9 months. No problem.
I produced quite a bit just by promising myself to spend an hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that became a little bit more. Sometimes it became a little bit less, but just having the habit of getting in there and, not fooling around. You can't be on the internet. You can't be watching television. You have to be writing. That allowed me to actually plow right through the book. I mean, that's what allowed me to finish this much quicker than before. And if I could put 3 hours together per day, I would be able to write, more books or longer books much quicker. but just promising myself that it's okay to do 1 hour a day was enough to get me through this book that I just finished.
So you read all the time about how some of these, all of these author pundits, from Stephen King to whoever, they always say, write an hour a day. Get into the habit of writing an hour a day. I agree with that. Even if I'm not sitting in front of my computer, I try and write for an hour a day, even if I'm just journaling for shits and giggles. I actually am working on a book that I'm handwriting, so that when I'm not wanting to sit in front of the computer, I'm handwriting this book in a nice notebook, so I'm at least still putting an hour in a day. The thing is that you have to get into the habit, and building that habit takes time. And I'm going to say this, that I was going somewhere with this. Hold on a second. I lost my train of thought. When you build that habit, when you get into the habit of writing an hour a day, if you can't write, like when you get off of work, if you're still too tense, or you have family to take care of, and you find that you don't sit down and go until about 8 o'clock at night, give yourself about a half hour and then try and write. I say this because my writing sweet spot is actually between 9:30 and 11:30 at night. That is where my brain goes, okay, we're going to do this. That's where I start to, the idea is, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be sitting in the living room just trying to relax, watching MASH, and my brain starts going, and I'm like, okay. Let me finish this episode and we'll go take care of it. Find your sweet spot. Your sweet spot could be at 7 a.m. Your sweet spot could be at 5 a.m. One of my friends, she gets up at 5 every morning and sits down and starts writing. And she writes for 2 hours every morning before she even starts her day. Your sweet spot could be at 3 a.m. If you're an insomniac and your brain's going at 3 a.m, do something useful with it. Go start writing. If you're a writer,
for sure,
make yourself that promise, get yourself into the habit, and find your sweet spot. Because if you find your sweet spot, it's really easy to keep that promise that you've made to yourself. Yeah.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through my pattern that I have figured out right now. The last 2 plot things that I did, this is the way that I did it. And I'm telling you right now, the next thing that I do, it will be slightly different because I'm always going to be kind of changing this process, because every time that I do this, I learn a little bit about kind of what works and what doesn't work. And the idea is to get it down so that I'm a writing machine.
Yeah.
So that I can continue to produce things on a Beth level.
Beth level.
Anyway, the first thing that I do when I come up with an idea, like I'm going to write a novel or something, I get one of these little pads right here. It's like a legal pad, and I fill it up with several things, including kind of the general idea for the plot, maybe characters, maybe a genre, a few keywords, scenes that come to mind, like I'd like for them to fight in a dirigible for the climax, and just whatever comes to mind. Just kind of dump it all out there, whatever you got, just to kind of get the ball going. Now, I have never done this second step, but the second step that would be brilliant if you're just doing it for yourself, if you don't care about any of this, you don't want to make any money, you don't need to do this step at all. It doesn't matter. If, however, you want to be a writer who is making money at doing this, here's my next suggestion. And again, I'm not doing this yet, but I'm not saying that I'm not doing it. It's coming at some point, I promise you. My advice is to go to Amazon, take the keywords and stuff, the ideas that you figure out what your genre is and stuff, look up those keywords on Amazon, and comes up. Are those books selling well? Are they not selling well? What's the market like? Take notes on that. Look at the top 5 books in that category. Find a category for it, maybe 2 or 3 categories. Find the top 5 books. Take notes on them. What are their titles? What do their book covers look like? How are they selling? Who's writing these things? Then look at the review for these books. You got 5 books there. Look at the reviews for the books. See what people like about the books. Look at the bad reviews. See what they don't like about those books, because that could be a differentiator for you. If they're saying there's not enough action in this, then you could go, well, I could put more action in my book, and that would maybe make some people happy to see more action in this type of book, whatever it is, whatever people are complaining about. Buy a couple of those books and read them. See what the genre conventions are. What is successful about that book that makes people want to, it's in the top 5 for some reason. You should be reading it. And then go back to the thing that you wrote down on your little notepad there, and make a decision on whether it's going to be a winner or not. Is this book going to be a winner as you've put it out there? And then react accordingly. Again, if you don't care, if you're just going to write whatever you want to, or it's not about money for you, you just want to tell your stories and stuff, that, by all means, please do that. But if you want to do this for a living, then I would suggest doing a little market analysis. Go ahead, Beth.
I want to make one caveat to this, okay? And it's this, and I've learned this with Love of a Samurai. Don't rely just on Amazon. Do research across all of the different places you could potentially put your book out. Look at Kobo.
That's a great idea.
Look at Smashwords. Look at Barnes & Noble. Look at all of the other sites that you can buy a book off of. Apple. Okay, don't limit yourself
that's a great idea.
Just Amazon. And here's why.
Sure.
When I put out Love of a Samurai, I put it in 3 categories. I put it in romance, historical. I put it in romance, action, adventure, and then I put it in one other one. The categories that is actually listed in Amazon are not what I put it in. I put it in, it's listed in historical Japanese fiction, which is the proper place for it there. But it's also listed in, and the other 2 categories that Amazon has it listed in is multicultural and interracial relationships.
Yes.
Now, I went back to Amazon yesterday and I said, hey, this isn't where I put these. I said, and you have 2 of the same category here, and my book is not getting the exposure it needs to. Instead of helping, Amazon turned around and said, well, we put your book in based on what people are looking for. Now, I will guarantee you, no one is looking for Love of a Samurai under multicultural and interracial relationships. So, with that being said, don't just rely on Amazon to do your research. What Dirk is saying is fantastic, and yes, we all should be doing that on some level. But broaden your horizon. Don't just trust Amazon, because even if you do all of this research and you have your book and you have all of your search keywords and everything is right and what it's supposed to be, Amazon's still going to throw it wherever it wants. So, keep in mind, you're doing this research not for it to land where it's supposed to be in Amazon. You're doing this research so that it lands in the right spots for places like the former Baker and Taylor, where librarians would go in and order your book. You're looking to put it, you're looking for these places like for Ingram Spark, for Barnes & Noble, for Kobo, for Smashwords, because they still follow what you as the publisher put in there, as compared to Amazon just basing it on what people are searching for and you keeping your fingers crossed.
Yeah. I'll also say that something I heard the other day is that I think that books right now, physical books, are still like about 60 or 70% of the market.
Yep.
So don't assume that everyone is just reading ebooks or whatever. People are still picking up books and reading them. Now that may not be necessarily be in some categories. Some categories may be heavily weighted towards ebooks, but people are still picking up and reading physical books. So your idea of going to Barnes and Noble, for example, or to the library, and finding out what's out there, that's a great idea. By all means, we should do a whole thing about market research. But my general idea is just make sure that whatever it is that you're doing has an audience. That's my point, is that you don't want to spend a lot of time on a book that no one cares about.
Unless you don't care about making money, unless you're writing that book for yourself. Yeah.
Yep. If you're writing for yourself, because this is the story you've got it. Hey, maybe you will create your own genre. Maybe it will take off. There's something to be said for being unique that everyone goes, oh my gosh, I never read anything like this before, and it becomes a worldwide phenomenon. Just realize that's going to be an uphill climb for you, rather than releasing something into a category where people are dying to read the next book in that category.
Although if you feel the need,
that's a different fight.
Yeah, if you feel the need to write that book and it doesn't fit and you are creating a category, by all means, do it. We're not saying don't. All means, do it. Do it. Definitely do
Certainly
it. Because
not.
when I released Beyond the Steps of Stone, sci-fi romance still wasn't quite a thing. And now you see sci-fi romance all over the place.
Right. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
All right. So my next step, and like I said, I haven't personally done that. I kind of write my own thing, but I thought it was a good idea to maybe mention, do a little market research before you go past that step, if you care. The next step that I do is to create my main characters, and I do that. I have a whole list, and I'm not even going to go over all of them right now, but I have a whole list of things that I want to discover, including how they look and how they speak and what their emotional wound is. Because if they're a main character, there should be kind of a character arc, and that's the way that I figure out, how they're going to heal themselves and how's that going to work into the and stuff. So if it's a romance, you got at least a couple of characters there that are main characters. If it's an action story, you're going to have at least one character. You're probably going to have several. You're not looking for the entire cast. You're not, unless you're writing Firefly or something, you don't need the whole cast at this point. You just need who are the main characters, because that's going to feed back into your plot, because they're going to have issues that they need to resolve, likely. Not everyone does that either. One of my favorite books is Jack Reacher books. That guy, there's no character development in that at all. Jack Reacher is exactly the same every time he starts in the first page, time he ends in the last page. Jack Reacher has no character arc. The people within the story often change the deal, but like Jack Reacher or James Bond or Sherlock Holmes, they're going to affect everyone around them. It's a different deal. I'm talking about, kind of the hero's journey, or the typical save the cat type of plot.
It's Bilbo Baggins versus Jack Reacher is what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
It's Bilbo Baggins.
Exactly.
Bilbo Baggins versus Jack
Is he
Reacher.
going? Right. Yeah. Is Bilbo Baggins going to stay at home and have 2 breakfasts every day in his little home, or is he going to get out of his comfort zone and go have an adventure?
Yep.
Which is kind of more along the lines of, what you are going to be looking at to tell a full story. But, there are exceptions to that rule for sure. And again, this is just the way that I do it. It doesn't have to be the way you're doing it. The next thing that I do is I get a bunch of note cards, and I get big note cards about this big. Mm-hmm. And I start writing out each of the scenes that I have, taking into account what the story is that I have, and also kind of the structure, the story structure that you have. You have an inciting incident, you have a midpoint, you have you have rising action, you have the climax, you have the denouement, all those sort of things. You're going to try to slot something in there, like have an idea. You've got the characters, you know what has to happen to them. You have an idea of where the story is going to start, where it's going to end. You try to put as much stuff in there as possible. It's still going to be spotty as hell.
Yeah.
You're not going to have enough. You're not going to have a complete story there. But the idea is to see kind of where you're at. Some things will be very clear, and other things will be, clear as mud. So, but I put it all down in note cards so that you can take those note cards, you can lay them out in front of you, and you can switch them around and move them from one place to another. It gives you an easy way to look at everything that you have, and as you add to it, because you're at the point where you're adding. You can add another scene or another thing that's going to happen, and you go, well, where do I want to put this in here? Do it needs to go before this card or after, after the midpoint, or, what's going on here?
So when I did Beyond the
three-act structure, there are certain things you got to hit.
Yeah. When I did Beyond the Steps of Stone, that was exactly how I did it, was with the note cards. And it also allows you to see plot holes really easy. Another way of doing it is with sticky notes on a whiteboard. Same concept as the note card, just not as much space.
Yeah.
Right in. When I handwrite a book now, when I decide that I want to sit and just handwrite, I do the same thing as what you're talking about with the note cards. I put them all, I take my outline, I print it off, I cut and paste because I'm anal that way. And hey, cut and paste. And I put them on the note cards and lay them out. And then once I have it the way I want it, I toss a ring around the note cards, punch a hole in the corner, put a ring on it, and, makes it easy to carry them around with your notebook.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It really is a great visual way of seeing what you want to write and making, and it really does help you move things around if your story structure, when you first outline it, isn't quite what you want it to be, or there's something that doesn't work for one reason or another. Bilbo is in Rivendell on one card, and then suddenly he's in Erebor on the other, and you're going, well, wait a minute,
right?
How the heck did
you got a problem
way over here? There's a problem. Yeah, so you're able to move some things around.
Yeah,
and figure it out.
And it'll fire off. If you got to get him from point A to point B, that becomes part of your plot. Get like, how am I going to fill this in? I mean, look, writing a plot just comes down to asking a bunch of questions, folks. It has to be one question after another. Just how do I get this character from point A to point B? It's that sort of question over and over and over.
Oh yeah,
just
and
constantly
by the way,
asking yourself, what's going to happen here? Well,
and you find point A1.
Go ahead.
As you're doing this, you find point A1.
Sure.
That needs to go before B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of Lee Child, the guy who does Reacher, one of the things that he talks about is if I'm caught someplace, I don't know what to do next, I start thinking about what are the bad guys doing. So, always think about what other things are, get away from your main characters and start thinking about what's happening in this world that are going to come back and affect your main characters and stuff. They're not the only people that are operating in the story. The environment's operating, the world is operating, the bad guys are operating, the good guys are operating. Everyone outside. Don't get so concentrated on your main characters that you miss the fact that there are other people out there that all have. I mean, Die Hard is the perfect example of this. That whole movie is good because you're just as much wrapped up in what's happening with the bad guys as you are in what's happening with the good guys. Let me go quickly because
Alan Rickman helped.
This happens.
Oh, just always.
For sure, yeah, for sure. Let me go quickly through the other steps and stuff and realize that, like I said, I'm writing on this in the future, and we will be addressing this as well in the future. But my next step is to take those cards and then transfer them to a digital arena, which for me is Living Writer. I really like Living Writer. Might be Scrivener for you, might be an Excel spreadsheet or Google Docs or whatever. But for me, I like to put it in Living Writer. They have a way that you can actually create note cards and then move them around in like a grid or whatever, which is still important because, again, we're still adding at this stage. Then what I do is I get back to characters again. So now I'm going to go back from plotting the book to go back to the characters. I'm going to start looking at if I need to revise anything with my main characters, because is there a question that the plot has brought up, like, how would this character react? And I'm going to look at the side characters. So I'm going to start creating all the bad guys and all of the good guys and all of the people that are going to help or hurt you along the way. Try to expand my cast out because they're going to, in turn, create scenes that I have to have because it's like, well, where am I going to introduce this character? What am I going to do? There's a scene. What's going to happen when this character does this? Okay, well, there's a scene. And so that's going to expand your plot out a little further. During this step, I also suggest starting to do research on your book. We talked about that in an episode or two ago, is doing research for your book. Doing research is going to create other scenes for you. You're going to be like, oh, I never knew that. I got to put that in this book. This is something it's going to do. And, maybe there is nothing. Maybe it's set in the future and there is, or, maybe it's a fantasy novel and there isn't anything necessarily that you can go research. Also be thinking about your world building, whatever that entails, whether that's research or whether that's you sitting down and figuring out how your magic system works or whatever. Because again, that's going to open up, if your magic system works a certain way, there's probably going to have to be a chapter where you show that someplace, where you show how it works or what's happening. There's another thing that you can add to your plot. Yep. So what you're going to do at this point is fill in all of the extra cards that you have. You're going to use your plot structure. You're going to use your extra characters, your settings, etc. And then you'd have a mostly filled out plot. The last step that I have yet to take, but I'm going to take the next time because it's going to make it easier to write, is to create a beat sheet, which I've always kind of just had the note cards. But what I noticed is that I had to stop writing while I was kind of in the flow. I was getting going. I had, I was pumping stuff out, and then I had to stop because I didn't do some research that I should have done, or I wasn't sure whether they were supposed to go one direction or another. So the idea is with the beat sheet is to kind of define those that and again, you don't want to rob yourself of the chance of discovery on these things. But for me, I need to know a little bit more granularly what it is that I'm going to do so that when I do finally sit down to write, I'm not wasting time either deciding what they're going to do or doing research on something that I didn't know about. If I write a beat sheet, I'm going to know you have to have, at some point, you have to know how to bake biscuits in the Old West and what they would use to create that. Well, I don't want to be looking that up while I'm writing. I want that there waiting for me when I do it. So that is my basic plot structure. And I haven't even gotten into the second draft, which is what I'm doing right now. But that is basically the way that I put these things together. And I will say one more thing. You were talking about putting the note cards together on a ring. I get a little plastic sleeve, and I put all of the note cards in there, and anything else that I produce, maps, anything else, I put it all in this thing to keep hold of it. And that's a way for me to keep track of these things, because if you don't, they're going to be all over the place. It's going to be crazy. So that's my advice.
So we do write very similarly. I think it's just, I think I've cut out steps only just because I've been doing it for, I've been pumping out novels for 20 years now. So, so I think I've just, yeah. And I've gotten back into the swing of doing it the way I used to. So.
Well, someone mentioned the other day that Stephen King is maybe the most famous pantser. He talks about how he doesn't do plotting for his books.
Yep.
But I'm not Stephen King. Stephen King has written, dozens and dozens of books. And that guy wrote short stories and stuff long before he ever wrote books. That guy's been incredibly prolific for 50 damn years. So
he's also dreams.
That's why he can get away with. Right. He has the experience. So to what Beth just said, some of these things become natural to you when you do them over time. Maybe you don't have to go through all of these steps. You just know it. Well, Stephen King definitely knows how to construct a story. And I mean, he has story arcs in every one of his stories. He's not unaware of story structure. He knows it exceptionally well. So him saying, I just pants this thing is not the full story on.
No, it's not.
He gets away with it because he knows his stuff very well and he has a lot of experience doing it. This is like training wheels for me. I put all of this stuff together to make sure that I'm going in the right direction and I don't waste time when I finally sit down to write. That's my point. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I may not need all these steps. May just come right out of me naturally. But I suspect there are probably more people that are at my stage right now than are at the Stephen King or Beth A. Freely stage.
Yeah, but you got to start somewhere. And we all started at this spot, learning story structure, learning how to construct our books, and you know what? All those years that we complained in high school about, why do I have to do an outline? Trust me, you get to this point where you're writing a novel and you will thank your elementary school teacher, your high school teacher, your college professor for teaching you and insisting that you do those outlines. I hate doing outlines. I absolutely hate doing them. I have discovered, though, that doing one for a novel is considerably more enjoyable than writing an outline for some silly thesis. And it's worth doing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Until we all become Stephen King.
It's going to save you some time.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap things up here. Do you have anything else you want to add, Beth, before we go?
If you have any questions about story structure, about how to sit down and do an outline, reach out to Dirk and I. We are more than happy to sit down with you and walk you through the process, or show you how to do it. I mean, we can jump on a chat call and give you some pointers on how to put your outline together. Questions on building characters, world building, please reach out. We're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And and again, check the website because I'm going to be probably writing up something on this process and putting it out there. And I might go a little further than that at some point, put together either a presentation or a book or both on this subject at a certain point, because I know that these things have helped me immensely to do it this way. And I suspect that it will help other people too.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, before we go, I want to say that Beth A. Freely is offering web design and book trailer services, and I'm offering author social media management, designing book covers, and doing author branding at themusesfunhouse.com. I'd also like to invite everyone to join and participate on our Book Crew Facebook group. It's facebook.com/group/Book Crew podcast. Join and tell your author friends. Finally, visit our site, bookcrewpodcast.com, for the information about this episode, our previous episodes, and articles from Beth and me about how to write, edit, publish, and promote your book. Thank you very much, Beth, for being here.
Always.
I am Dirk Hooper saying, dream hard.